All right, Heidi. What do you think? So this is actually the second night on the boat, right?
Right. Yep. We officially closed on the boat on Friday. It was an interesting transaction. If you are getting ready to make a large purchase, like buying a catamaran or a monohull, I think it's really important to understand what obstacles you could come into as a buyer. Franny and I still really wanted the Sayona 47. The survey went well, and we had Jonathan giving us this completed survey that we could then take to our insurance agent. So I quickly emailed it off to him, and within a couple hours I got a phone call back, and he said, "I can't write a policy for you." And I'm like, what? We talked about this. Hurricane Nicole was on its way.
As Tropical Storm Nicole strengthens in the Atlantic.
And what the state of Florida does is they don't let any policies get written within 48 hours of a hurricane approaching. We couldn't get insurance on our boat until the hurricane had passed. And our closing date was in 3 days of the survey. And the hurricane was supposed to hit like maybe a day before our closing. So the big thing was that, one, we really wanted to see the boat after the hurricane had gone by, because we wanted to make sure that it didn't get damaged after we had hauled it out and seen it and surveyed it and everything else. But then we wanted to actually change the deadline of our closing to the following week. It makes a lot more sense, and evidently that's done all the time. We had another friend going through the same exact thing. He was supposed to close like the same week that we were, and they just changed the date. They pushed it off by a week. That's all you need to do. Well, what happened was this seller didn't want to renew his insurance, and his insurance was actually running out on the 10th of November. And so he was pushing that onto us by making us do the closing. We're just going to continue and see when we could get our insurance, see if we could still make the closing 3 days later. And the hurricane came and went. So on Thursday morning, they had all of the paperwork prepared and they were ready to write the insurance policy. And so the agent called me back and he let me know that we got insurance. And then we had scheduled a walkthrough. So the walkthrough didn't happen until the day that we were supposed to close on the boat. And normally I think that something like that would probably be better if it happened like a day or two prior to closing. So we were not able to see the boat until the 10th. And it just so happened that Wiley was out of the country at that point. So he had to send another broker to go and look through the boat. And that broker was not available until 3 o'clock in the afternoon. I wasn't going to transfer any money without laying eyes on that boat, because I didn't want to be in a contract, have the money over there already, and then sudden we find out that there's some damage on the boat. So like all the things had to go in a specific order. We saw the boat looked good, and we were ready to send the money over. It was the day before Veterans Day. Always pay attention to when your closing dates are. You just don't want to mess around with holidays because they're bank holidays. It would have been much better to have it the following week for that reason as well. It got complicated. Wiley came back. He couldn't get him to sign the paperwork that said that our closing would be delayed from the 10th. It was like falling apart. And he's like, we're out of contract. And he's pretty much telling me that we're the ones that broke the contract because we didn't transfer money in time. All because of this hurricane mess. So I was like, okay, so I'll just take my deposit back. And he's like, you don't understand, you lose your deposit. And I'm like, okay, I'm not losing 10% of the value of the boat. I intend on going after our deposit. I think what the seller thought at that point was he's just going to walk away with all of our money. And so I asked the broker, I said, well, I know in real estate transactions, because we just sold our house, and it's something that when we sold our house, my real estate agent warned me. She said, if somebody ends up going too late and far beyond wanting to get their deposit back, it's actually not worth the fight, because what it does is it'll end up tying up your asset. So you can't keep your house on the market if you are ending up squabbling with somebody over the deposit. And it's the exact same way in the yachting world. So if somebody thinks they're gonna just walk with your deposit and the other person says, I'm gonna go after you, well, that's basically what was gonna happen Franny just wanted the transaction to take place, and so did Wiley. And so basically between Franny and Wiley, the two of them kept it together because the seller and I were really at odds with each other at this point. We finally got the seller to sign paperwork to close on the 11th, which was also a holiday. So our money was not going to go to the escrow account until Monday. So even though the boat was ours as of Friday, we lost that whole weekend of being able to sort it because we just didn't feel comfortable without the money going into escrow. But in the end, we got our boat. We have a lot of stuff to get through. We have a lot of inventorying of seeing what's here and what maybe we need that's missing. And there's duplicates of stuff that we already own, and we just have to make a decision on what we're going to do with some of the stuff, maybe make some donations. And there's a lot of stuff to go through. It's, you know, this was a charter boat. It had a lot of things that are specific to charter and maybe not so much to us.
Well, good morning, everyone. Today's a big day. We're going to be taking the boat out for our first sail, actually. Now, mind you, we just got this boat a few days ago.
Yeah, we got it, it's not even been a week. Yeah, and so we closed during the week, and so we haven't even had a chance to really film because we've been here every evening trying to get things sorted, and it's been night, so we haven't been able to film. And now we're excited to start filming today.
It's going to be great fun. We have brought a captain on board because we know this much. So Mike is going to run us through the ropes, show us the ropes is what he's going to do, and we're going to learn everything we need to operate this big, huge, monstrous boat.
I have started one of the ASA books, but Franny, I think you have completed I think most of them, right?
Well, I read through them.
She read through them, which is great. So she's a lot farther along than I am.
Books.
So it'll be a good learning experience for both of us. And it's a nice day. It's overcast, but it's good for filming, which is awesome.
I think it's going to be great. Great. Okay, let's see if the port one will even come up. Yeah, no, it won't. Damn it. See, the starboard one comes up. Boom. Just fine. This one's not. I don't know if it's here. I don't know where it is, but damn it.
We seem to recall Jonathan giving us a bit of a warning about this.
Engine instruments and start-stop. So the difference in the hours is because one of the MDIs has been replaced. There is still an ongoing issue with the MDIs, so you should be aware of it. They have installed aftermarket start switches on the engines, so if the MDI does fail, you still can't start the engine.
So this one they have them installed.
They do have it. So there's no real recommendation for it, but I just, this is good information.
And yesterday, there was a bit of kerfuffle and fuss, so it wouldn't run. So there's the buttons over here. Hard to find. It's attached to the exhaust line, the water line for the exhaust. Here we go.
Well, let me explain a little bit about what's going on here. So Franny had taken off work the day before, and we had hired a captain. His name is Captain Mike, and he came down and helped Franny make sure that all of the systems were in good working order before we actually would take the boat out to do training on the boat. And so they had a little bit of an issue with the port engine the prior day, and once again, when Franny was trying to start it right before we did our sailing for that day, evidently it was still acting up, which meant that it needed to be started with the aftermarket manual switch that is on each of the engines, and in this case for the port engine, which then means that you also have to stop it manually as well because the MDI control module is not working. So Franny's frustrated because one of the reasons why we did our survey was to make sure everything was in good working order, and of course both of these engines were working perfectly well when we had the survey done. So super frustrating that these modules are so flaky.
Water coming out on both sides here. So you can see water gushing out on this side. See the water gushing out there?
Yep.
I'll go to the other side. Same thing over here.
Hey.
So the exhaust gets mixed with the coolant water on its way out to cool the exhaust system so it doesn't burn, so it's not 1,000,000 degrees coming out of the side of the boat.
Okay.
It's actually quite clever. So, but it's got to be going, because if you don't see that water, you're not getting any coolant through the engine. So it's very important to see that. So they're up and idling. We should let the engines warm up just like you would for a car or anything else. We'll let the engine warm up a little bit, then we'll be ready to go. So they just need to chill for a bit. And I'm glad this engine is running, because the port engine would not start yesterday. The controller's bad. It does have a manual start on it. It's one of the nice things about these Volvo D260s. You can rig a manual start to them. And so it is started. You have to also turn it off from in here as well. There's a little lever that you can turn, and that will stop the engine.
So we had to stop it manually as well?
Yeah, it will not work from the controller. Controller's dead. So, just one of these things.
Great. It takes a while to respond, and then it finally starts.
It does, and then it's too late.
Too late.
You gotta already be going the other direction before you start going.
This thing is really helpful.
Weirdest thing.
Since neither one of us had ever steered a boat this large before, we were both a little bit surprised on how slow it was to respond to our steering. So if you were going to the left, you would get it finally to start responding to the left, and then by the time you started going left, you'd have to go back to the right. And that was happening a bit when we were on our survey. We just didn't realize that that really wasn't quite normal. When Franny took her turn at the helm and with steering, she also had difficulty with that. And in addition, when it came to getting the boat into gear, she noticed that the port side was really sticking, especially when she was going from reverse back into neutral. And this definitely was a problem.
All right, Heidi, what do you think? We've been out for about, 45 minutes or so.
An hour, I would say.
It's a little spicy out here, but not bad, really. It's a lot better than it was when we were beating into the waves, sort of motoring out. But it's quite a thing. I don't know. This is really something, huh? Boat seems to be doing awesome. Yeah, a little bit of luffage on that head sail. It's pretty windy out though, I'll tell you. We're out about this far from shore, not super duper far.
3 miles?
Yeah, 3 miles.
Are we?
That's a great question. How do we know if we're 3 miles?
Touched the shore.
Oh, that's right, we touched the shore. 4.29 nautical miles. I might furled in the jib a little bit just to, because it's just a little intense out here. It's not too bad. So we're looking at
14 and a half, 15 knots apparent wind.
Yeah.
That's average. It's perfect for this boat, really.
right. Yeah, it's really good. So
I guess if I had thought about it when we were putting the sail up, we would have put one reef in, just because it's a little easier. But
So we have to deal with that again? The reef at some point?
maybe not. We'll see. I mean, if the wind picks up, then yes. If it doesn't, then no.
Well, we're back from kind of a crazy day. Did you have fun, Heidi?
I had a great time.
So it was really just sort of a shakedown cruise, just to kind of give us an idea of what it's like. But we had over, 21, 22 knot winds, right?
Right. Yeah.
And 3 or 4 foot seas.
Right.
And it felt a little spicy out there, if you ask me.
Well,
I mean,
we're not used to it.
yeah, we aren't used to it. That's one of the things that really got me was I felt that, 3 foot waves didn't seem like they'd be that big a deal. And I didn't think that, 21 knot winds was that big of a deal. But it was pretty spicy.
I'd always heard about slapping on a catamaran, never knew what that was. And then we heard it a few times.
Yeah, not too many times at all, but it was a few times. Yeah.
But it is when the boat is just hitting the water just about right.
And we had water over the bow a few times.
Right.
We got sprayed in the face with quite a bit of water. So
Right.
it was pretty exciting out there.
Yeah, one thing I didn't understand, so even though our conditions weren't crazy, treacherous, and huge waves, is that the amount of time in between each waves makes a bit of a difference. And so in this case, we had 3-foot waves, but we only had like 4 seconds in between.
But it was being hammered by one wave,
right?
And then that wave would move through, but it would only get halfway through the boat, and it'd get hammered by the next one.
And the sea state wasn't just the same direction. It was very
confused,
it was a different,
and
going all over the place, and the wind was changing directions a bunch too. So it was actually a very good day for us to experience what it's like to sail. And it was just our first day. So
it was, but we got to put in 2 reefs actually. We put in a second reef because it was just weird. We did furl up the Genoa a bit as well. Here's the other thing I was really impressed about was the boat was killer. It was solid and no creaking, no wrenching, no fuss. It just did its thing.
Right.
It was great actually. So I was very impressed with the way the boat sailed.
Right.
And its integrity and structural integrity.
And we didn't spend a lot of time down in the holes. I didn't want to. Like the minute I started going down there, I started sort of feeling a little weird. Yeah. And I had already taken like seasickness medication, but I was just like, I didn't want to like even tempt fate there and go down and spend a lot of time down below. It just was much nicer. The weather was okay up above, and plenty of wind on my face, and same with you, right?
Well, kind of. I didn't take any medication. About halfway through, I did put on one of those C bands that you put on yours as a little electric pulse. Just because I was feeling a little weird, but I think, what I think it really was? The movement was, and sometimes, it was pretty drastic, right? I had no idea how much that's a workout for your abdomen. My stomach right now doesn't hurt, but it's tired.
Right.
It's like worn out. So I think that's what was happening. I also got super sleepy at one point because I think we were just chill and it was great. Oh, we didn't get it on camera because you only saw them once in a blue moon, but we saw lots of little flying fish.
And we did.
They were super adorable. They would pop out of the water, and I was like, are those little birds? And they were just booking into the wind too. They were doing great, so it was really cool to see them.
We'll try to film when we can, but we have to pay attention to our instructor, and there's times when he'll say, put the camera down and stuff like that.
Yeah, like pretty much when we started moving, he was like, put the camera down.
I mean, we definitely will try to bring to you what we can, but we may not be able to do a lot.
Oh, we went through 2 bridges.
We did. Well,
we went through 2 bridges.
Two times.
2 times. So we went four times total, and we had to wait quite a while on one of them. And so went through this whole thing where you pirouette around and everything. It was very cool. So it was fun. We had
that one, I don't know if we missed it by like 2 minutes, or I don't know what happened, why they didn't let us through there. So
I was being curmudgeon, I think. But
he wanted to see us pirouette some more.
Yeah, maybe, because it is pretty cute. Yeah, so all in all, really impressed with the way the boat sailed. We're going to have a lot of videos coming out for all the service that we have to do on the boat. I've got some things to do on the engines. I've got stuff to do on the solar panels aren't working properly. I mean, there's a bunch of things
4-year-old
in here.
boat, so only 4 years, and already there's a lot of
stuff to do.
Yeah.
So
and we did know about some of them from the survey, but there was other things that have popped up since.
Yeah. So all right. Yeah, so there's a bit we need to do.
Join us next time when our training cruise to Key West goes horribly wrong, when the weather started getting rough and the tiny ship was tossed. If not for the courage of the fearless crew, ingenuity would be lost.